you're sitting down, I want you to think. You can close your eyes if you like, and think about the most amazing dream you have ever had. One with bright colors. Everything is happy, everybody's safe. You can be whatever you want to be. And this dream is so real that you don't want to wake up, because you know when you wake up, the dream will vanish like mist. Anybody want to share a little bit about that dream? Okay. A dream that he was in the Air Force. That God fixed everything in the world. Well, what do you think the price is to make a dream like this become a reality? Big or small? Well, dreams like this, big dreams, usually vanish when we wake up. But there is a time and a place where some of these become a reality. And the cost of bringing these dreams into reality is bigger than we can imagine. It's priceless. But for $26, just $26, we can take one of these dreams that has come out of the land of dreams into the world of reality and keep it alive. If you got a $1 bill, $20 bill, $5 bill, want to take them out of your pockets? Be thinking about those. So this dream was dreamt hundreds of years ago, and instead of completely dying and flickering away in the morning when these people woke up, it still survived, and it lingered in the minds of men. Have you ever had a dream that's lingered, that you could not let go? And this dream had a time when it could become real. But dreams are delicate, they're fragile. They're like a Christmas ornament. Beautiful, dazzling, maybe covered with jewels or images. But they're just glass. And at this time, this dream was so fragile and so thin that it didn't even have the painting. And it was just clear, transparent glass. But in the minds of those men where that dream lived, there were images etched, and they started to paint those images onto that delicate glass. And what happened? What were these images? These images were of a land where you could have freedom. Freedom to play Wii. Freedom to read Harry Potter books. Freedom to do your homework for Mrs. O's class. Also, to have dreams of your own. Little boys and girls. But also those same freedoms could be experienced by men and women who have lines so deep on their face that 1,000 stories are written. This dream was a dream of a land called America. And when I take this dollar bill out of my pocket, I look at it. What would you buy with this dollar? If I gave this to you right now, what would you buy? A button. Right?
Button.
A button. How about a candy bar? Who would buy a candy bar? Soda? Who would go down to Chevron and buy a thimble full of gasoline? And is that all we think about when we take out this dollar? Or do we look at George Washington and remember that on Christmas Day, 1776, the enemies of the dream of freedom rose up to extinguish it. And George Washington and some of the earliest veterans of our country knew that dreams are fragile and that at any time that dream could end. but they crossed the Delaware and went to battle because they said, the day this dream ends will not be this time. And they rallied their forces and they defeated the enemies of freedom. $1. A few years later, in 1814, President Andrew Jackson on this $20 bill. Well, he's more than 3 lattes at Starbucks. Because again, the enemies of freedom rose up. And they knew there were dreams. They were ready to crush those dreams. Dreams of building businesses, having children, becoming a teacher, becoming a doctor. And President Andrew Jackson looked at the 3 columns of those armies and the army that he commanded, and he said, there may come a time when this dream of freedom fails and it is crushed by its enemies. But not this time. $20 for the defense of the dream of freedom. They rose up, they battled and fought down the enemies of freedom, and the dream survived. 1863, middle of the Civil War, the very soul of our country was being torn apart. Because even though we were built on a dream of freedom, that all men are created equal, Abraham Lincoln knew that a country with slavery could not be a country built on a dream of freedom, and it would pull itself apart. And we fought the Civil War, and in 1863, President Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address, and the Republic rallied under the song known as the Battle Hymn of the Republic, because they knew that there would be enemies of freedom. And they knew that there could come a time when this fragile dream of freedom could be shattered and fail. But they looked and they said, not this time. And the Battle Hymn of the Republic told them that they couldn't die to make men holy, but they could die to make men free. And many, many people died in the Civil War. And that dream of freedom survived. And it continued to survive and grow. And all around, through time, there have been veterans. Look to your left, look to your right. They're standing here, they're sitting here. The stories are etched in the line from this dream of freedom. So they have watched and looked. And every time the enemies of freedom have stood up, they have stood up stronger. And they have stood up and said, there may come a time when the dream fails, and that time the enemies of freedom win. But while I live and I have strength, it is not this time. World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict, Vietnam, the Gulf conflicts, and many great struggles in between. American veterans have decided that the time of freedom will continue. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean? It means we have to remember that every dream we have, who wants to be a doctor? Yeah, then you can come and take my anatomy and physiology class and then we'll ask again. Who wants to be a professional athlete? Actor. Who wants to test video games for Xbox? You guys all have dreams, and because of this dream of freedom that has been kept alive by the strength, courage, and blood of American veterans, it enables all these other dreams to stay alive as well. So remember, when you have dreams, when you look at the beautiful landscape, or a jeweled, glittering Christmas ornament, remember that dream is delicate, it's fragile. It has to be cherished and protected. Dream big. And God bless the United States of America.